Ole Miss survived the game against the Arkansas Razorbacks, and Trinidad Chambliss was absolutely a revelation. Let's react to it, or let's overreact to it. This is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. I am your host, Stephen Willis, and one thing that's insanely clear, this game is drunk more often than it is not. Ole Miss survived the Arkansas Razorbacks 41-35. I'm a 10-year vet of the national media, former Ole Miss staff member as well, and Trinidad Chambliss, he was a revelation to the point where we kind of have to start having a conversation about him. Anyway, thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen, and please give us a like, subscribe, and comment on your way out, and please pick a second listen on the network. Nearly every college and pro team is available. This episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned for later for the highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. Okay. This is an overreaction episode, so I'm going to overreact something fierce if we're going to be completely honest about it. Ole Miss won the game against Arkansas. It was a typical drunk game. It was the worst that we've seen the defense look since the 2023 LSU game in the first half. They did only give up 7 points in the second half and had the game-sealing turnover to kind of get things where you're going in that situation. So that's awesome. But the story in this game is Trinidad Chambliss. We all was talking about quarterbacks and all of that over and over again. And you wanted to know exactly what was going to happen. How severe was Austin Simmons injured? Which it turned out, looking at the way he played tonight, it was more severe than was let on. It wasn't he took a snap at the end of the game or Lane Kiffin saying Sunday or Monday he's going to be fine. That wasn't something that you could even count on. But Austin Simmons was a little bit more severely injured than we knew about. That's fine. It works out, But Trinidad Chambliss was going to get the start, and it started to be reported earlier in the morning that Austin Simmons may not have anything that you can honestly look at for a quarterback moving at Ole Miss. I mean, Pete Thamel reported he was going to be a game-time decision and Chambliss might play. Chris Lowe reported it as well, and those are the two basically people that Lane Kiffin hand delivers information to. So when they reported, you can absolutely believe it because more often than not, they got the information from Lane Kiffin himself. So everybody was worried about Trinidad Chambliss when he walked on the field at the beginning of the game. Everybody was, because the only thing that we've seen about Trinidad Chambliss was a 4-minute drive against the Kentucky Wildcats and some spot duty against the Georgia State Panthers. I mean, that was really it. So the first pass that he threw against an SEC team would have been in the Arkansas game. We just didn't know. We knew that he finished third in the Harlem Hill Trophy, the D2 Heisman at Ferris State, and led them to a national championship last season. We know that he had 25 touchdowns rushing and 26 touchdown passing or something like that. We know that he had nearly 3,000 yards passing, and he nearly had 1,100 yards rushing. We knew all that. So we knew that it was there. So the only question you have was how much would he struggle to go up a level or two, because he's going from D2 football to the SEC, and his first start was going to come against the Arkansas Razorbacks. Dude was a revelation. He was amazing. He's at the point where, in my opinion, no matter what happens, he gets the start against Tulane. No matter what. Austin Simmons is obviously more hurt than we were led on to know about earlier in the week. give him the week off against Tulane, hand it over to Trinidad, and go win a football game, with LSU eventually coming into town. Just go win a football game, because you saw the offense get completely unlocked with a backup quarterback against the Arkansas Razorbacks. And that was good, because defensively, that didn't look good. That didn't look good at all. We're going to go over the stats in a little bit about that, but it does not look good. Oh my goodness. Texas A&M just beat Notre Dame, essentially, if they make the extra point. 13 seconds left. They have tied the game, and they still have an extra point to go after. Texas A&M is likely going to win this game. That is an awesome win for them if you want to stop the Texas 8-4 stuff. So, if you comment on this video, please put your town where you're commenting from so I can give you a shout out. Okay? Because we need to celebrate this win. The Ole Miss Arkansas game, it's just drunk. It's stupid. It's just a stupid game to where you can't really count on anything, and it's going to be a shootout. It's going to be completely weird. It happens every single year, and this one was no different. Bobby Petrino had Pete Golding's number in the first half, and Taylor Green ran all over Ole Miss. It was like they'd never seen his own read before. If you remember Ole Miss against Chris Relf in 2009, that's what it looked like in the first quarter. Texas A&M just made the extra point. So it is interesting to see what's going on. I think with Trinidad Chambliss, the offense is better right now. It's better than we've seen this season. I like what he kind of does to the offense. I like how the offense looks when he's in. I like how he hits his checkdowns and kind of is athletic enough to honestly make the offensive line work for him, if that makes any sense. Trinidad Chambliss is an absolute revelation. Trinidad Chambliss potentially could be the starter for the rest of the year. There's a chance Austin Simmons gets Wally pipped over this. Like I said, I think that in the Tulane game, Chambliss is going to start regardless, because I don't think Austin Simmons, I think he needs to get well. He needs to get healthy. You have a weapon there. Can Trinidad replicate what he did against the Arkansas Razorbacks? I talked about all week the key to the game. First of all, don't give up explosive runs to Mike Washington. There was a 50-yard touchdown in the game that they weren't ready to go that opened up the offense and kind of opened up Ole Miss's defense a little bit. In the second half, they decided they were going to take away Mike Washington, and Taylor Green was cramping a little bit. So at its worst, you didn't have to deal with the running game. It was the passing game, the Bobby Petrino passing game. And Wydett Williams recovered a fumble by TJ Daugherty at the end of the game that put it away. And they were able to run it, get a first down, take a couple of knees, and move on to the next week. At the end of the day, Trinidad Chambliss was a revelation. I do not overstate that. I am not being hyperbolic. He looked amazing in this game, and he looked like he fit with the weapons that are on the roster. And it's what's amazing about Trinidad is he's only been on campus just a couple of times. He's only been there since the end of May, which means you have an opportunity to kind of put this away, to get this going. And I'm excited to see exactly what that looks. John Sumrall and the Tulane Green Waves, who blew out the Duke Blue Devils, which we understand that quite well, they come into Oxford next week. The Cajun part of the schedule is on the schedule for the next 2 weeks with Tulane, with the LSU Tigers, and then Washington State eventually comes on. If Ole Miss starts 6-0, which is possible, with Trinidad Chambliss. If what we saw tonight offensively, you can beat anybody on your schedule. The defense has to have a little bit better plan to start with, but you can beat anybody on your schedule. And that is a really, really cool idea. All right, so when we come back, we are going to look at the stats in the game. Right before we take your comments, be sure to comment on the game and put where you're commenting from, because I want to shout that out as well. Anyway, this is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, and thank you very much for tuning in. This episode is brought to you by Mazda's Moving the Game Forward. For those who believe it's just not about playing the game, it's about doing more than putting points on the board. They move crowds, they move culture, they keep moving the game forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward was Trinidad Chambliss coming in and having a game where he scored 2 ground touchdowns and throwing the ball once. He threw for 354 yards. That may be a career high, to be honest, as Ole Miss took down the Arkansas Razorbacks 41-35. It was all good for Trinidad Chambliss, and obviously he's going to be the Locked On Player of the Week as well. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to every Mazda vehicle. Move and be moved. Do us a favor, like, subscribe, and comment on the video. Subscribe to the podcast on the audio podcatchers and give it a 5-star review. It costs nothing but keeps all of this free. If you want more, join the Insiders program on the subtext link down below. No trolls, 14-day free trial, and the easiest way to cancel ever. So give it a try. And don't forget to check out a second listen on the network. Nearly every team, college or pro, they're ready for you. All right, so looking at the stats of this game, and this is an ugly game if you're a fan of defensive football. Ole Miss won another one-score game, 41-35. They had 25 first downs in the game, 118 yards rushing, 357 yards passing for a total of 475 and 0 turnovers for the Rebels. Arkansas had 35 points, 29 first downs, 221 yards rushing, 305 yards passing, for a total of 526 and 1 really huge turnover for the Razorbacks. Now, one thing that is also interesting in this game to me is the box score lining up. Taylor Green, 22 of 35, 305 yards, 1 touchdown. It's like I said, he had to do extremely special stuff to beat you. You needed to put the game in his hands. Now, he played really well. I'm not saying he didn't play well, but Mike Washington was the guy that you needed to be afraid of. If he got going, then everything was going to get harder. Braylon Russell. So that they were able to keep Mike Washington, other than the 150-something yard touchdown, to 65 yards total. So they did a good job on him. But P. Golding struggled getting the signal in. They weren't lined up, and he ended up busting a long run. Trinidad Chambliss, 21 of 29, 353 yards and a touchdown. Austin Simmons did get into the game after Trinidad Chambliss had a bloody thumb. He was 1 for 1 for 4 yards. Charlie Weiss choosing to run Austin Simmons on that play was almost malpractice. I do not feel good about that in any way, shape, form, or fashion, but Austin Simmons was a gamer and got the first down. It looked like the person that tackled him immediately went ahead at his ankle, but I don't know that for a fact. That's just what it looked like. Chambliss was the leading rusher with 62 yards. Kewan Lacey had 44. They wanted to engage 8 as much as possible because they were hoping their speed could influence Trinidad Chambliss. He would make mistakes. That wasn't the case. And Ole Miss receiving, Harrison Wallace III, again, the leader, 6 catches, 92 yards. Caden Lee had 3 catches for 75. Deuce Alexander, 4 for 70. Daquan Wright, 1 for 64. Kewan Lacey had 4 catches for 40 yards. Logan Diggs had 1 for 13. That's one thing that is interesting to see. Kewan Lacey checking the ball down to the running back. The leading tackler on the night, even though he didn't do much overall, he didn't have a sack or anything like that, was Suntarine Perkins. He was a monster in the game. Whiteout Williams had the turnover. He was the third leading tackler. TJ Daugherty was the second leading tackler. He caused the fumble. Those were the three best defensive players of the game. And if you look at time of possession, I'm curious to see exactly where it ends up. Ole Miss ended up at 26 minutes and 45 seconds. There was a chance that he could have gotten sideways a little bit on the Ole Miss Rebels in this game. So we'll see exactly what it looks like. Those are the stats from the game. Let's go to your comments right up next. Let's see what's up with the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. When I'm on top of my hydration, I notice everything works better. My energy, my mood, my skin, but getting enough fluids every day, it's not always easy. That's why I've been loving Drip Drop. Drip Drop is a doctor-developed and scientifically proven for fast hydration. It uses the perfect balance of sodium electrolytes and glucose to help your body absorb fluids quickly, delivering 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of the leading sports drink. My go-to flavor right now is cherry limeade. It's a game changer after a hot walk in the Florida sun and has made that a better experience, believe me. Right now, Drip Drop is offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first order. Just head to dripdrop.com and use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege. So the weekend is here, and it's time to look back at the game that just happened and crown this week's MVP on who delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash streaks, saving more money every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For Ole Miss, Trinidad Chambliss, 353 passing yards, a touchdown. He had 2 additional rushes for touchdowns. He was a guy that made play after play and just looked like a total gamer, in my opinion. He should start next year or next game, regardless of Austin Simmons. Give him a chance to get completely healthy before you have that conversation again. And just like Harrison Wallace delivered for Ole Miss, DoorDash delivered your Saturday with DoorDash streaks. You can save every Saturday you order. Stack that up all season. You could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday and keep the streak alive for your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. The promo period runs through November 18th. All right, so let's take some user questions. Let's celebrate a little bit of what's going on. Garvin King says, how many weeks will Austin Simmons be out? I don't know. I do know that his injury was worse than it was let on. And you could see him genuinely having trouble walking after his drive where he threw his touchdown pass. I think at this point, you don't want to make it worse. You want him to be ready to go for Georgia, potentially. I think Tulane might be a bridge too far for him at the moment. But Ole Miss is going to be okay with Trinidad Chambliss. So, as Luke Shaw says, Chambliss is a revelation. Blake Glover says, it's too early to say Simmons may not see the field after this performance of Chambliss's performance. Also, the defense will dominate from here on out. No quarterbacks left with Green's ability. Potentially. There are some running quarterbacks that can take advantage, and Pete Golding's just struggled with Bobby Petrino. He made Max Johnson look like a left-handed Tom Brady for Texas A&M in 2023. He put up 31 points last year with backup quarterback mainly. So, yeah, I get it. Mark Walsh says, give me Chambliss regardless if Simmons is healthy. Mark Walsh is from St. Louis. The Packin' Pastor says, Arkansas's offense made our defense look worse than they are, from Hattiesville, Arkansas. Potentially. They're good. They are legitimately good. We talked about that over the course of the week. Bobby Petrino is really good at what he does. So we will see. Brent Willis says, I was really impressed with Trinidad, but we won this game because of our place kicker and Lane Kiffin maturing enough to use him and take the points when it's there. You're not wrong. This is the second straight week where that's happened. And that's interesting. Every possession ending with a kick. We saw that tonight. Every possession ended with a kick. And Ole Miss just kind of played as the favorite, just won the game, even though it got kind of stupid there for a little bit. Bo Henry says South Carolina, and is like the googly eyes. Vanderbilt beat South Carolina 31-7 tonight. And they knocked Lenore Sellers out of the game. Vanderbilt is well on their way to being 5-0 going to Tuscaloosa. So they're a genuinely good football team. Saints fan 04, the defense worries me a little bit now. It worries everybody because that was the worst defensive performance, at least for a half, that Ole Miss has had since the LSU game in 2023. But again, Bobby Petrino, he puts Pete Golding on skates more than he should. David Buford says, great to win. Underground revival, oh my, quarterback controversy, ? Like I said, it's important that Trinidad Chambliss just starts the next game regardless. I think he is the guy for that game. I'm saying that Austin needs to get healthy. That's what I mean by that. Be healthy. Be what you need to be. We'll worry about the other stuff a little bit later, if that makes sense. Garner says the SEC is so wide open. Yeah, I have no idea how this is going to end. I think the best teams in the SEC right now are probably Oklahoma and Tennessee. We'll see exactly how that goes. Jim Crawford says, I agree. Typical Ole Miss Arkansas game. We are leading the SEC. Yes. One Sabrin, defense has to get it together. They do miss those tackles. James York, Chambliss makes me wonder if we need to have a dual quarterback system. We talked about in the offseason how this team could look like potentially the Florida Gators from like 2006 or something like that, whenever Chris Leak was the starter, but a freshman, Tim Tebow, performed as well. I did not expect Trinidad Chambliss to throw the ball this well. He's a genuine all-around quarterback and twitchy. To come from the D2 level, it's genuinely surprised me to see that as well. Tim Skelton says, I told them that Arkansas folks that they weren't going to win. King on the Throne says, Chambliss is legit. And Cash the Real Sank, this game reminded me of 2021 and 2022. Get torched all game, get a turnover on the last drive to win. Hey, take the win. Yeah, it counts. We'll take it. Cooterhead Jones, Doomsday defense in the wrong direction. Yeah, defense had a bad game, had a legitimately bad game. Reverend Hughes says, I was at the game with my dad, who is an Arkansas fan. Trinidad looked awesome. Defense was great in the second half and made a huge play when it mattered most. Yes. The difference between this and the 2023 game is it wasn't the whole game of being a disaster like the first half. The second half, they gave up 7 points and got the biggest turnover of the night. So they made plays when they had to make it. And they kind of contained Taylor Green a little bit in the second half. I do feel better after seeing that, but that first half, there's flashbacks involved with that. Cash the Real Sank, I think when Austin is healthy, you should still have the start, but keep Chambliss in your pocket if need be. I think at a minimum this season, Chambliss has earned a package to where you do stuff that's a little bit different. I think you've done that. James York says, I definitely think Simmons had a more significant injury than we thought, and we were let on. Kenneth Ford says, typical Ole Miss Arkansas game. Javon Campbell says Austin is done for a while. It looked bad. It looks bad. He needs to get healthy, and you shouldn't try to make it worse, if that makes sense. Swamp Puppy says, I don't want to look too deep into the defense because it's only because when we play against Arkansas, it's always an offensive duel. You're not wrong. TTK Trace, I think we have the best chance to win with Chambliss regardless if Simmons is healthy. I don't know if we've seen what Simmons can do. All we know is after 2 games, Trinidad has shown what he can do, and we're still waiting a little bit on Austin. So we'll see. Tim Skelton, Steven, you did a job this week reporting on Ole Miss. I don't report on Ole Miss. If I hear something, I say something, but I don't report. I don't play the breaking news game. That's something that's been pretty consistent. So I can be wrong from time to time. I play in the realm of rumors from time to time. But it got a little bit weird today. It did get a little bit weird, and it all worked out. It did all work out. So we'll see how the game with the Tulane Green Wave are. Do we not have an opening date after Tulane? No, after Tulane is LSU. I think after LSU is an open date. I think October 7th is the first open date. Garner, that LSU game is starting to look interesting. Oh, and Jim Crawford is from Stuttgart, off Arkansas. I think it's pronounced Stuttgart. Jaden Nixon, the offense last week would have lost this game. Trinidad seems to flow better with Kiffin's game. I think he used the backs and the check downs and all of that. It's kind of using short stories from time to time. Keidrick Jones says, I think we found our quarterback. There is a serious Wally Pipp element to what's going on, potentially. So we'll have to see if this continues. Swamp Puppy is from Tallahassee, Florida. I think we have the best chance to win regardless if Simmons is healthy or not, from Senatobia, Mississippi. Yeah, that is the question. And Lane Kiffin has been clear that his job is to win games. So we'll see exactly how that goes. We all know that I'm a huge Austin guy. But we'll see exactly how that goes. Bryson Joyner says, Mobile, Alabama here. Hotty toddy. Defense looked bad. Got a little bit better in the second half, but this is scary for LSU coming up. LSU, 20 points against Florida offensively in Tiger Stadium. They scored, 23, 27 against Louisiana Tech. LSU isn't the offensive juggernaut that the Arkansas Razorbacks are at this point. Seriously. Garrett Nussmeier isn't going to do what Taylor Green did. And Plains from Lafayette, Louisiana. Dada says Chambliss can run, he can throw, he has great chemistry with the receivers. I love how balanced our offense is. Hotty toddy from Dothan, Alabama. Tim Skelton from McCarley, Mississippi, 10 minutes west of Winona. So that would be the west side of I-55, if I'm not mistaken, a little bit. Juval Campbell from Ridgeland, DBs need to catch the freaking ball. If you remember and watched my show, I said he was going to throw the ball to Ole Miss. Ole Miss just needed to catch it, and they literally dropped 3 interceptions tonight. And it's amazing what that game would have potentially have looked like if they would have intercepted those passes. But yes, they need to catch the freaking ball. Country Kid says, I knew Ole Miss was going to win, from Holcomb, Mississippi. James York says, Chambliss may not have the arm, but he is smart and he can run. And he just has the it factor. He literally has the it factor for Ole Miss. Reckon he was the man all year, just started Simpson to give him in the system and get him to learn. If so, Simmons can have surgery. I don't think it's that happened. I think this is just the way it is. Underground Revival from Wiggins, Mississippi. I believe a quarterback shouldn't lose his job due to injury, but Chambliss made a strong case against that tonight. Seriously. Blake Glover's from Ellisville, Mississippi. Spent some time in my early college years in Moselle, by the way. Prentice Brooks says from the baseball injury to the ankle injury. Okay, I don't know what that means. Bo Henry says from Atlanta, there will be tape on him going forward, so defenses will scheme for him. It's hard to scheme for a quarterback that can make good passes and that are accurate throwing the ball, and he's really good at hitting checkdowns and running the football. He had 26 carries. He has a nose for the goal line. So sure, they can scout him. Sure, they can do a lot of stuff. I don't know that that will necessarily matter, if that makes sense. Let's see. Midwest Picker, Golding made a good second half adjustment. First half, 28 points allowed. Second half, only 7. Yeah, they decided in the second half that Taylor Green was not going to run the football anymore. And the other one, if Arkansas would have decided to give the ball to Mike Washington at that point, I think they would have been successful because Ole Miss had decided Taylor Green was not running the football anymore. And Ole Miss took that away. So we'll see exactly how that goes. Jeffrey Langley, gotta love those Rebels. He's in Aiken, South Carolina, I do believe. Jimmy T says, hotty toddy, y'all. Checking in from Anchorage, Alaska via Grenada, Mississippi. Great game from the offense and defense. Did 0 in-game adjustments. Got to keep getting better. 1-0 today. Thankful for that. Britt Hubbard says, what a game. The offense was electric. He was watching from Hernando, Mississippi. Fun fact about Hernando, Dirty Cops just randomly made up a ticket on me and wanted to punish me because I was going too slow. But I kind of got the last laugh on that one. So that one was pretty funny. All right, just a little bit longer and we're going to get out of here. So we'll see how it goes. Luke Shaw says Chambliss spread it around and those receivers showed out. Tornado Nathan says sliced bacon and, pork, the other white meat, you can break that out, or pork, it's what for dinner. There's catchphrases all over the place. Pigpen says, good game, guys. We felt like we were going to score maybe next year. Pigpen, this game is always so freaking stupid. Safe travel. I hope your player has a complete and full recovery. That's always scary after the Chucky Mullins stuff. We're pretty sensitive whenever the net cart comes out and they start dealing with that. Good game. Bobby Petrino, I said before, scares the heck out of me. Mike Washington scared the heck out of me. And Ole Miss didn't catch passes when Taylor Green threw in the ball. But good game, man, and we will see you next year. All right, real quick, at least Ole Miss isn't South Carolina tonight. They were bad. Vanderbilt, 31-7 in Williams-Brice. Arbiter says, start Chambliss, go Doors. Let's see. Let's see if a couple more questions pop up that I can see. I'm kind of looking at everything before I get out of here. Pigpen said Lane sold out on the run. They totally made us show we could pass the ball, just couldn't finish. And Josh says Arkansas deserves credit. Arkansas missed 2 field goals, still came back and took a lead, but almost snuffed out the ball in time. Arkansas is pretty lit for the first SEC game on the road. Arkansas played really well. This wasn't the Arkansas that we saw against Alabama A&M. This wasn't the Arkansas that we saw against Arkansas State. They played really good football. It was just one of those situations to where Ole Miss, 1 turnover, 1 penalty that was a drive killer, and Arkansas wins that game. Ole Miss played really, really well in that indeed. Anyway, we're going to stop right there. Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your go-to source for Ole Miss sports. We pride ourselves on offering the most comprehensive perspectives, which is why we're the front door of Ole Miss. Check out Google and Google Ole Miss podcast and see how much we pop up. It's like 80% of the page. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. It helps the show, and it's completely free. Your support means the world to us. Also, it's another big moment for Locked On. College football fans, Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll from Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation alongside two-time AP Coach of the Year Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts. A college football preview show that only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV. Be sure to tune in tomorrow with another overreaction show, but this one will be with the other SEC host. Live stream will be at about 11 o'clock Central Time. So we'll see how it goes. Hotty toddy, everybody. Remember, analytics are just the old English word meaning bad football. We'll see you later.